weapons. Cuphead has them, and Cuphead players are going to need them. So, as you'll see here, we have this tier list where I'm going to rank all the weapons and supers in both the base game and in the DLC of Cuphead in this tier list. So, as you'll see, we got 7 tiers here. We're going to put the best of the best up in this top one. And then this middle one is average. It's going to be, your basic weapons. So, we're going to have the pea shooter and your basic plain shots, right? That is going to be our baseline. And then at the bottom here, we have our niche weapons, weapons that do have some uses, but come up very rarely. And then below that, weapons that are not really going to have any uses. And below that, we have the Bravo Zulu P26 tier. That's the name of the achievement you get for using exclusively the mini plane bullets, because they're just that bad. Their damage is that low compared to the regular planes bullets. I mean, it took me pretty much 6 minutes on simple mode to beat a boss with this weapon. Bosses are supposed to take like 1 to 2 minutes. So it just gives an idea of how bad this weapon is. I mean, the damage is low, the range is low. You just don't want to use it. Anyway, moving on. So next we have the Lobber. This deals a little bit more damage than the pea shooter, and it bounces when it hits the ground, which means it is able to set up traps when bosses are in positions where they can't get hit. You're able to set up traps with these lobbers by timing their bounces, having them bounce for a while so that when the boss comes back, they will run into where it's bouncing. You can get a lot of damage up quickly that you wouldn't have been able to do any other way. So for that reason, and for the naturally higher DPS anyway, I'm going to put the Lobber in Great, because it also helps with certain bosses, like Grim Matchstick, for sure. The EX move, I would say, is overpowered because there's a glitch where you can make it hit like 2 or 3 times, so that is just overpowered by nature. Like, speedrunners do that consistently as part of running Cuphead. Up next is going to be the Spread. The Spread is the highest DPS in the game at 41.3, where the pea shooter is at 30. So this is almost a 50% boost in damage compared to the pea shooter, which is huge. That's going to really help you get your time down for the S ranks and bosses. The EX move, I would also say, is great, because you're also getting a lot of damage. If you're going into boss hitboxes, you can land all 8 of these shots, and that'll be the highest damage EX in the game by doing that. Alright, the next thing I will be putting in here is the Chaser. Now, doesn't feel right to put the Chaser in bad, even though it does have the worst DPS in the game at 17. Which is pretty low, right? You're not going to be able to get amazing times with this, but it does have its uses. I mean, the thing does home. It's never going to miss. The part of it that is bad, I would say, is its EX. It does basically no damage. It's not really going to kill minions. You're going to more often than not take damage by counting on it. So you're not really going to end up using the Chaser EX at all, even if you are using the Chaser. Up next is going to be the Charge. Now, the Charge is, I would say, very solid. Dealing 46 damage. That is more than most EXs are going to do. So that's very nice. And on top of that, you can use the EX to kind of combo into it, right? By hitting the super button when you have a fully charged shot. Demonstrate that. So here is the charge shot normally, right? You're dealing a bunch of damage just in one reverse. The uncharged variant is not very good because it only does it on the release. It's pretty slow firing, 6 damage per shot. But if you use the EX, you're able to do both. It fires off the EX and immediately fires off the other shot as well. And so that is a way to get a lot of damage in really fast. So I'm going to put the charge in great. I'm going to put its EX in great because it works as kind of a combo with it, but its uncharged variant is going to be bad. You're not really going to end up intentionally using that for anything. Alright, now the next weapon that I'll be placing is the crack shot. Now, I would say the crack shot is just a good version of the chaser. Basically what it's going to do is it's going to shoot a big piece that deals as much damage per second as the pea shooter, and then if that misses, it's going to break off into a small piece, which is going to deal slightly more damage than the chaser. So it's the only weapon that would actually reward you for missing, really. So if we look here, we see the crack shot versus the chaser. Crack shot comes out slower and it is prone to miss, but you are still getting overall more damage just because of the higher DPS of the small crack shot, but also the pea shooter level DPS of the big crack shot if you're able to land those. So for that, I think the crack shot is going to go into good. I'm going to lump these guys together just because they're kind of one and the same. The parry for the crack shot is also pretty good. Or the EX, sorry. The EX is good because you can parry it and it will launch itself at enemies. You'll also get a free parry for that, so I would say that it is a good EX. It's not amazing on damage, so I wouldn't say it's great, but if you're trying to get your parries up, or you're wanting to get a weird movement with Miss Chalice, this would be possible to do that with. And so up next, we're going to talk about the roundabout. I also think the roundabout's good. I think it's just a better version of the pea shooter. As you all can see, it's going to go in this cycle pattern. Like it's going to go forward and then back, as opposed to just going forward, which is interesting. And it comes with basically a 10% damage per second boost over the pea shooter. And I think that's very nice. It ends up being worth it more often than not. The EX is weird because you have to dodge it for it to last as long as it can. I wouldn't say you're really using that EX very often just because it is hard to hit and you're playing this dodging game while you're using it. It's still okay. I would put it on par with the pea shooter EX, but the roundabout is a better projectile. Now, what I would say is on par with the pea shooter is the converge. It's going to deal about as much DPS as the roundabout, but it comes at the cost of having a larger spread, which you can lock with the lock button. So you're gonna pretty much be able to use this effectively against guys with big hitboxes, or if you're trying to pierce through enemies. So I would say this is not a bad weapon, but most of the time you're gonna have better options. The EX fires a big yellow beam. Works pretty similarly to the pea shooter, except it all it's a more of a hit scan rather than a regular shot, and that comes at the cost of less damage. So I'm gonna put that there. I'd actually probably put I don't know, it's on par with these, so I would say I put it in average. Alright, up next we have Twist Up. So this weapon fires in just such a weird direction. It's hard to hit, it's hard to land all 3 shots. The EX travels in this weird spiral motion. You're never going to get all the hits, even though it does deal 40 damage at max. You're not actually going to get all 40 damage, because what enemy is moving in that specific pattern? I would say that but the Twist Up is very niche. You're going to use it in a few spots, like a few specific places on a few specific bosses, and EX you're just not ever going to use. I mean, that is a crazy pattern. So up next we have our supers. Super 1 for Cuphead deals 87 damage, which for 5 cards isn't amazing. That is less than what 5 of these would be. But I think this is kind of like the baseline super, Super 1. So I think that it is going to go into the average tier. And I feel like Miss Chalice's Super 3 is just a better version of this, because it's going to give you that pink spear at the end that you can parry, so it's basically only costing 4 instead of the 5, which I think is nice. Chalice's Super 1 acts similar to Cuphead and Mugman's, except it's vertical instead of horizontal. I don't really like it at all. I just think the reach isn't very nice. It's not ideal for most situations. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and put it in the niche, just because you're not really gonna use it compared to Chalice's other supers, I feel. So speaking of Chalice's other supers, we have Super 2 that just gives you an extra armor point. It stacks on top of your health, so if you have 4 health and you use this and then you get hit, you're still at 4 health. And so that's going to be huge in providing extra hit points that you can just save throughout the match. It's going to be huge in getting S grades easily. I think that that's easily the best super in the game. Speaking of Super 2, I think that Cuphead in Mugman Super 2 is really not bad. You're getting a little over 4 seconds of invincibility, and if you hit with the full 41 DPS of the spread shot during that, then that's going to be the highest damage super in the game. Additionally, you can use it just to, block hits for getting P ranks, or just, if you want to be in a boss hitbox for whatever reason. This super is going to be good. I don't know if it's going to be in the great tier, because it doesn't have as much versatility as the EX cards, but I think Super 2 is not bad for Cuphead and Mugman. And then for our main supers, last but certainly least is Cuphead's Super 3. Aiming this thing is basically impossible, because you aim it with the same D-pad that you use to aim your character movement. So it is near impossible to actually land all of its hits. So now we're going to move on to the plain weapons. Now, Miss Chalice's plain bullets fires in a spread of 3. They deal 14 DPS each, compared to Cuphead and Mugman's 40 DPS. As you can see, if you're not landing all of these, which you rarely are, the DPS is going to be a lot lower on this weapon. The magnets are okay in terms of damage. As far as playing supers, you're really gonna want to be using your choppers more because of the multi-hit aspect of it. Now, Cuphead and Mugman is also going to have their chomper that goes straight forward, and I think the straightforward chomper is a lot easier to set up certain like chain attacks, right? By lumping together multiple hits at the same time. Because the chomper takes a little break every time it hits something, and that allows it to land even more hits. The magnets in Cuphead, I would say, are not great supers because you can't really aim them. I would say they are niche in terms of their damage, but the chompers are good because of their abilities to rack up multi-hits. Now, compared to the P-Shot, or the basic plane shot, Chalice's is going to deal less damage overall, whereas Chalice's bombs are going to deal more damage overall, but with worse aim. And Cuphead and Mugman's bombs are going to do less DPS overall. Now lastly, we have the plane supers. These turn you into a little missile and give you invincibility frames. They deal less damage than a combination of your other supers would do. So I would say that Cuphead's is average since you have full control over it, and this Chalice's is niche since you do not have full control over it. And just as a little extra bonus, I want to put the Wheatstone in niche because it has its niche uses, deals 16 damage, which is actually more than most regular shots. It's about half as much as the X moves, so the Wheatstone it exists as a weapon. But for real, this is going to be my Cuphead weapons tier list. Let me know if y'all agree or otherwise. Be sure to like and subscribe if y'all want more stuff like this though, and I will see y'all later.